top 5 of the month. Welcome back to Book Market This, where lit happens. My name is Jess, and the lit that is happening today is my January wrap up. In the month of January, I read a total of 17 books. Here are my final thoughts. Starting off with the least impactful, moving into the most impactful, and then wrapping up with my absolute favorite reads of this month. This month was a fire reading month, I must say, so hold on to the seat of your pants. Okay, friends, book number 1 is kind of a hot take. It's a book that absolutely did not work for me, and it was the worst read of the month. It was my 2-star read, and that is A Forged in Blood. So if you are a fan of Zodiac Academy, this book is for you. You're going to love this. This book just did not work for me at all, and mostly because I felt like it was all spice, no plot. Right toward the end of the book, we start getting some interesting storyline, and then it's time to get the next book, and I'm just not a fan of that pacing at all. I like Enemies to Lovers. I did like the fact that there was some gay representation in here, and it felt really natural how it was woven in. I really feel like the author did so good with that. There were some characters in here that I started warming up to and would have really loved to see some backstory with them and more like deep information about them and less spice. I'm just not a fan of when spice is sort of forced and just it felt like a lot of using and abusing going on, and then the author wrapped that up in a book called romance, and that is just not my forte. 2 stars. Okay, the next 2 books I read on my Kindle, and these are my 3-star reads for the month. The first one is The Intruder by Freida McFadden. Some of Freida McFadden's books are so freaking good, and then some of them are extremely predictable. I feel like The Intruder landed somewhere in the middle. It is definitely a worth your time. It just didn't wow me, but it was really good. Next up was The Women of Arlington Hall, and this is sort of a historical fiction, and I really enjoyed dipping my toes into this genre. I had a lot of fun with it. There is some suspense. Our FNC is in a government-ish job, and of course, you know what that looks like for women, especially in her era. FNC finds herself in a situation where she is being set up, and unraveling that mystery was a lot of fun. It did drag in a lot of places, and I found myself bored at times and just trying to get through it, and so that is why it lands a 3-star for me. Next up is my thrifted book of the month, and it was The Book of Cold Cases. I had a lot of fun with this book. There is a lot of suspense, a lot of mystery, a lot of trying to figure out where everybody stands and who everybody is. I had some fun unraveling the truth on this one. I definitely finished this in a night. I was flipping through the pages so fast just because I was so intrigued with exactly what we had going on. There were some paranormal elements to this book that I honestly didn't expect. This was my first among St. James, and I've heard a lot about that author, but this was the first type of book that I found and picked up by her. I think I will be reading another one. This one also did not wow me, but I had some fun with it. The ending hit a little weird for me, but I enjoyed it overall. The next set of books is where most of the books that I read in January landed for me, which is really good, and that is 4-star. Most of these were also on my Kindle, so I will post a picture about them. The first one was a book called Not Quite by the Book, and this is a cute little cozy romance story about finding love in unexpected places and sort of more importantly about finding yourself, and I had a blast reading this one. I highly recommend. The Art of Starting Over was the cutest little contemporary romance that sort of felt like second chance romance as well. It is mostly about starting over, finding the courage to walk away and leave a tumultuous relationship, and picking up the pieces and being able to rebuild it yourself. It started out with her not really having a choice but to walk away, but there was a point in the story where she could have returned, and she absolutely stood her ground, and I was proud of her and rooting for her from page 1. I highly recommend. You Must Be New Here was a psychological thriller that I enjoyed a lot. It is by an author that I had never heard of before, and it is, I think it's actually marketed as a suspense, which, I mean, to me, they're almost most of the time one and the same. I had a blast trying to unravel exactly who was responsible for what. I trusted nobody in the story, which is exactly how I want it when I'm trying to figure out what exactly is going on. We have a neighborhood full of suspicious people, bad husbands, bad wives, crappy marriages all the way around, not so great relationships with children, and just trying to figure out who in the crap committed an unaliving. It was a good time, and I highly recommend. Okay, next up is The Anatomy of an Alibi by Ashley Elston. I have felt a little conflicted about this one. I had a lot of fun with it. It did felt that the plan between the wife and the other woman was a little bit weird, but I think it was mostly based around trying to catch some lies that were happening, and then it started unraveling into way more than any of them anticipated. And I did think that that part of the story was a lot of fun as they start catching wind of, oh my gosh, I did not mean to get myself wrapped up into all of this. Now I could potentially be in a lot of trouble. And it was fun trying to unravel who all was involved and what. Some of the things that you couldn't figure out was mostly because you didn't know the characters. It wasn't like, here's the lineup of characters, pick who's guilty. But in some cases it was. Overall, I had a blast with this. I definitely didn't see a lot of it coming, so that's always a win. The next two books that were 4-star for me are both by Kendra Elliott. I love me some Kendra Elliott, and I love me a little cop suspense mystery to break up some of the other reads. Her First Mistake and No One Knew both ranked about a 4-star for me. I had a good time with meeting Noelle, the newest person in these series, and I can't wait. She has another book coming out in September, and I am all in. A couple of the new releases that I read for this month was one by an Insta author for me, and that is John Mars. He is like the king of thrillers, and I absolutely love the majority of his books. There are a few that are, but the majority of his books, I absolutely eat them up. I love his writing style. He is a little unhinged at times, and I always think someone should go check on this man. But his book, Dead in the Water, is no different. It is so unhinged. I was so concerned about his well-being while reading this book. I was like, who thinks of this kind of stuff? But Dead in the Water starts out with a MC who is already dead and he is being revived, and then that's not enough for him. He continues to revisit death because he feels like when he was revived the first time, he didn't come back alone, and he needs all of the answers. He feels the only way he can get these answers is by revisiting death, and it pretty much does work. But we are all wishing that it didn't because the answers that he finds, we really wish were not revived. This book was unhinged. It was dark. It was just crazy in a lot of ways. I feel like we were left with almost no one standing, but it was also a lot of fun. If you enjoy thrillers and don't mind a little darkness, you have to bookmark this one. 4 stars. The next 4-star on my list was actually quite surprising for me, and that is because it's a Coho book. And I have read a lot of Colleen Hoover's books, but I have not been the biggest fan of most of them. That's a whole separate video. But Woman Down was really good. Now, when I picked up Woman Down, I was like, this sounds like a Verity adjacent book. Like, why does it sound like this plot has already been done by her? But it was very different. It stood on its own. It was suspenseful. I did not see half of what was coming. I have so many questions for her. Like, I just want to know, has she used this type of inspiration? Like, that window scene, hot tamales. Okay. It was so much fun. This book had me eating it up. I was panicking with and for her half of the time. Yeah, you have got to read this one if you're a Colleen Hoover fan, if you are a thriller fan in general. Colleen Hoover did it this time, you guys. She did it. And one of the 5-star read books that I had this month, first up, is Freedom McFadden, The Inmate. I did not ever think that this book would be one of the top books that I read this month, but it was. This book was so much fun. I had no idea what the crap was going on. I did not anticipate the ending, which is what I really, really love about a good thriller. This was epic. I love it. 5 stars. Another Freedom McFadden that was a novella that blew my mind was Death Row, and that was a book that just pulled me into the character so quickly. When I finished this book, I wanted so much more, but this story was told so well, and I was so shocked in such a short amount of time. So I really loved that one as well. The next 3 were so good. I don't even know if anything else that I read this year is going to be good enough to stand up to these. And the first one was actually my January book club pick, and that is We Who Will Die. You guys, this is so good. This book was so good. It's a fantasy book, fantasy romance, and the characters, I fell so in love with our FMC. I loved all the side characters. I don't think I've ever felt so passionate about some of the side characters as I have in the last couple of books that I read. This was top tier. If you love a fantasy book, especially a romantasy book, you're going to want to go grab that one like yesterday. It is so good. Okay, I truly think the last two books that I read are going to go head to head for top book of the month. And I'm almost embarrassed to even admit which book it is, because this is a book I should have read forever ago, and it is Six of Crows. Oh my gosh, how did I not read this for so long? Six of Crows is a YA, a fantasy book about a group of thugs and thieves who are going on a heist, and none of that sounds like anything that I would be rating 5 stars. I mean, it sounds good, don't get me wrong, but it just, for whatever reason, a heist, that doesn't sound like something that I'm going to be like, ooh, excited about. I loved this so much, okay? So much. Oh my gosh, so much. The characters were great. Again, this is found family. These characters were characters that I will cherish forever. I already want to read it again. I already called, well, not called, but I already got online and got Crooked Kingdom because I need to be back inside the story with these people. I loved Inej so much. Kaz was fabulous. Their backstories were great. I loved Jesper. Who didn't like Wylan? Oh my gosh, I just want to be hanging out with these guys forever and a day. I was super shocked by Dina and Matthias, and I just need to get back into this story again. This was so good. I had read Alibi Bardugo at one point. I think I picked up The Familiar, and I was just like, I don't get it. It's okay. But this writing was so good. YA or not, I loved it. I loved this. I love this. Lee Bardugo did her dang thing with Six of Crows. Don't ask me why I'm so late to the conversation, but if you haven't read this, put this on your TBR. It's so good. The last book that is competing with Six of Crows, they're very different, and that in itself is going to be so hard to choose, because how do you pick? I wish I could do a favorite in each genre, because pitting two very different genres against each other seems very hard because they're so different. Like, how is one supposed to be better than the other? I just don't even know how to do it. But it is a thriller book. It's by the queen of thrillers, my Insta-buy female thriller author, Alice Feeney. I love her. I just don't think that there's anybody out there who does it better. And she nailed it with My Husband's Wife. This book, I could not keep up. I was scrambling to find myself, let alone figure out who all these characters were to each other, and just find my footing in the sane world to try to unravel this story. It was so good. I was so confused half the time in the best way. When things started coming to the front and started revealing, I was shocked at every turn. Figuring out who was responsible for what just blew my freaking mind. I loved this book so much. She really did it. What do you say about a book that is just so great? 5 stars. If you don't read anything else on this list, I think you got to grab Six of Crows. If you haven't already, I think you got to grab My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. And if you've read both of those and you need another one, then I think you got to get The Inmate by Frida McFadden, or Woman Down by Colleen Hoover, and that, or Dead in the Water. Or Dead in the Water by John Mars. All of these books are the top tier of the month, and I have just had a blast with this reading month. I don't know if I'm going to be able to top it for the rest of the year, and that is both wonderful and scary. Overall, this was such a strong reading month. 17 books. I found new favorites, read outside of my comfort zone, and reminded myself why I love thrillers and emotionally driven books so much. There were so many that I read this month that are going to stick with me. I can just tell. And then some that were fun, but I know that they're going to be forgettable. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to bookmark this channel so you never miss when it happens. And I will see you in the next video.